Let us now look at Raspberry Pi, that's introduction, and OS preparation, that is the operating system which is required in Raspberry Pi, which is a Linux based operating system. So it can work as a microcomputer rather than a microcontroller. So basically if you, this is the board, and if you can connect the monitor over here and the mouse over here, this is the power cable, that is 700 millivolts power, that is you can power it with a battery power bank. You have the GPI open, which is for controlling or sending out signals. So it is basically used as the ports. So 40 pin GPI open, and more importantly, it has the Wi-Fi connectivity. So you can connect to the Wi-Fi station, and you can connect it to a LAN cable if you want, and then the USB ports. So you can probably connect the keyboard, monitors, network. So it is ideally a microcomputer board. So you can just like any other computer, you can use it as a computer. So that's where it is called a microcomputer. Of course, you have the specialty. Why the reason it's used in the IoT application is this GPIO pin. So you can connect to the external world. So that's in a nutshell about the Raspberry Pi. The latest one is of course the Raspberry 4, Pi 4. You have the 3 as well, and you have in case of 4, you have the memory is much more. Instead of 1 GB, you have 2 GB, 4 GB, and all. So memory, even it has a faster and a better processor. What is the reason why it is preferred as a IoT board is its Wi-Fi capability. It can send out signals to the cloud. You can control any of the external systems through the GPIO pin. Be it you can get inputs from the sensor, that is a transducer, or you can send out the signals to a relay unit through the GPIO pins. So this is a description about the Raspberry Pi board, but to operate this one, to operate any, for that matter, any computer, you need to have an OS installed in it, that is operating system. So Raspbian OS is available. It can be downloaded from the Raspberry site. You can download it. It's kind of a similar to Linux based system. So if you are good in Linux, you can even learn Linux with Raspberry Pi itself. So how do we go about? And as I said, this is picture is, you can connect all this. You can connect the monitor through the HDMI. Then you can connect to the USB. You can use the mouse. You can use the keyboard, and this is acts as a memory. The micro SD will act as the memory. So having said that, installing Raspbian OS, there are two ways of installing. One is Raspberry Pi Imager tool. This is recently introduced. It came in around 2021 is what it has come. So this is a kind of a plug and play. You need to download from the raspberry.com website, and you need to download that, and then you can we'll see that it goes through. Once you install it, you can then, just like any of the application, you need to follow the screens. We'll see that. That's one option. The other option, this is the older option, manual installation. In the manual installation, you need to download the image, and then you need to through the disk writer, the software. You need to write the image into the micro SD. So this is a manual installation. The imager tool is a straightforward one. All you need to do is download that imager tool from Raspberry, and then it'll take care of itself. The rest of the things it will take care of itself. So we'll see, first one is the Raspberry Pi imager one, how to go about doing that. So step one, using Raspberry imager tool. First and foremost, you need to download and install this, install the Raspberry imager tool. So once you have installed it, yes, you need to have the SD card inserted. So this is a SD card inverter. So this is a micro SD. So you need to insert it, and you need to insert into the USB port of the system. So the SD card, different SD card is there, maybe 16 GB, 32 GB, whatever you are comfortable. Have that plugged into the card reader, and plug it into the USB port. So once you do that, yes, this is what, once you install the Raspberry imager, this is what you get in the startup menu. So you need to click on that. So this screen will come up. Choose the OS, and choose the storage as where it is. Maybe it is, if you're using C and D as your hard disk, maybe EF might be your E drive, could be your USB card reader. So it'll definitely not, hard disk will not be shown. So naturally it will go to the USB card reader. That is what it will show as the storage. So that is one. And the next one is, once you choose the operating system and the storage, this is one more important step, because as a technical person, I would prefer my laptop itself to control the Raspberry Pi instead of having a separate computer kind of setup. Meaning, instead of connecting Raspberry Pi to the monitor, to the keyboard, what I prefer to do is to control the board through my laptop, and for that you need to enable SSH. So control shift, all the three simultaneously, control shift and the X key on the keyboard has to be pressed, and this will open up. And you need to have Raspberry local enable SSH. So this is important. The reason why it is important is that otherwise, when you do it manually, you need to have an SSH file put on the appropriate folder. This is important. We'll see that. In this case, so enable SSH, it will take care of itself. You don't need to create one SSH file, dummy file, and have it over there. That's not required. So all you need to do is enable SSH. You need to give the user ID password. So once all this is done, you save it and click on the you'll have a write button over here. Once you save it, click on that, write, and it is writing, so that's where it is disabled. Otherwise you will have this write enabled. So it will say write, it will write on to the micro SD card. 100% is complete, then it will validate, and then finally it will come out. So post that, this is ready. The SD card, you can remove the SD card, and you need to plug it in. You need to plug it in over here. SD card slot, you need to plug it in. It will be some at the back side, it will be there. So it will be visible from when you take the Raspberry Pi board. You need to insert it, and so this is through the Raspberry Pi imager tool. And this is the as I said, this is the most recent one. Earlier days in the sense 2-3 years back, it was little laborious process. It's a manual approach. Manual approach in the sense micro SD card, this is what you need to, you can see that in the resources section. You need to have the SD card formatter, format it, download the Raspbian OS, then download, install the Win32 disk imager, and then use it and copy the Raspberry image to the SD card writer and remove it, the SD card, and then plug it in Raspberry Pi R4 and follow the step. So the step 6 is common. I reiterate, step 6 is common irrespective of whether you use the Raspberry Imager one or the manual approach. Step 6 for the headless one is common. So this step 6 is common. Otherwise, two approach. One is the manual approach or the auto approach through the Raspberry Imager. So execute this, the SD formatter tool, and once you format, you need to download the Raspbian image and use Win32 imager to write it. And once say you select the image, it will once it is complete, it will say that everything is done, and then you got to plug and play. This is common. And again, if you're using, let me reiterate, if you're using the manual process, you need to have a file, place a file, just a dummy file with a name SSH. For connecting through the Ethernet cable, you need to give, we'll see that steps, but do remember this is a difference, manual one or through the Raspberry tool. If you're using the manual one, you need to have the SSH file placed on the boot folder. So that's about it. We will quickly see how to progress using the Raspberry Imager tool. Thank you.